Welcome to the Positive Deposit Podcast, where we transform minds to change lives. I am your host, Presley Nelson Jr., two-time cancer survivor and proud president of Positive Deposits. But I have such a special guest tonight, man. She just learning more about her is just amazing how one, she's a Black woman, so you already know Black women are doing great things. But number two, she's a survivor. She is a superhero. And I have tonight for you guys, Jasmine Souers.
Souers, yep.
Oh, okay. I got it right the first time. Awesome. So tell us a little bit about yourself, not too much, because we're going to get into that and we'll get this thing started.
Well, keep it short and sweet. I was diagnosed with breast cancer when I was 26. I turned 30 at the end of 2020. I took that experience as a second chance and decided to turn pain into purpose. And that's what I'm doing now. I'm in the pursuit of a purpose-driven life.
Hey, purpose driven, not like the book, but your own story, your own driven life. So let's talk about it. When were you diagnosed? What was going on? What was happening at that time?
So I was actually misdiagnosed first.
Oh,
It was interesting. So breast cancer runs in my family, but I didn't
okay.
test positive for the gene. My grandmother is a two-time breast cancer survivor.
Yeah.
Her sisters have had breast cancer. We lost a cousin in her 40s to breast cancer.
Wow.
And I remember for my 25th birthday, I decided that I was going to do my first breast cancer walk in honor of my grandmother and her sisters and my cousin. And the shirt that I wore said, "Screw the Tata, save the woman."
I
Within
like that. I like that.
within a few months,
Mm.
I was having nipple discharge, and I didn't have any kids.
I was
And
just
I
going to
had
say, were you pregnant?
no, no,
Okay.
I was not. um, I had one breast that was really painful,
Mhm.
and it was swollen, and I was wearing one of those like ribbed t-shirts. And I was standing in front of the mirror, and because the lines are horizontal, you could like clearly see like one side is swollen.
Yeah. Yeah.
I called my mom, and I'm like, "Yo, I think something's wrong.
Mm.
Let's go to the hospital."
Right.
The
Right.
hospital, they turned me away. They said that,
What?
they said that I didn't have any typical symptoms of breast
Okay.
cancer. They don't do those kind of screenings in the ER. Go to your primary care doctor.
Yeah.
Go to my primary care doctor. We do a mammogram and an ultrasound, and I cleared both. Um,
Wow.
so they send you this little follow-up paper afterwards, and they'll say like more screening may be necessary. But I'm 25. The only
Milestone.
screenings that
Milestone.
I know, right? Talk about a quarter life crisis. I'm 25. Um, the only kind of screenings I know about are a mammogram and an ultrasound, and that's
Yeah.
what we did. So it's
Right.
like they said maybe it's an infection. I didn't take any antibiotics because I mean, like, I didn't have any other signs of an infection. Like, I didn't have a fever, nothing was warm. So, in my mind, I figured that if cancer was the worst thing it could be, and you're telling me it's not cancer, let's keep moving. Maybe it'll clear up.
Right. Right.
Um, Unfortunately, it did not clear up. And over maybe 6, 7 months, it just started to get worse.
Oh
So,
wow.
I was married at this time.
You said
Um,
married?
I was married.
Okay.
I was
Okay.
married. I was probably 2 years into my marriage then.
Okay.
Um, and this was the conversation in about October of that year, right around my 26th birthday, is when I went in to see my OBGYN, and we're talking about family planning. And
Yeah.
in that conversation, I was like, but I need you to like, before we go down this road, I need you to check out this boob. And that's what really started like months, like 3 more months of screenings and
Wow.
ultrasounds. And I thank God for my OBGYN because she sent me to a breast surgeon,
Okay.
and that doctor was not, she didn't settle on an inconclusive result. Like, it's not
Yeah.
enough that the mammogram is clear if we still don't know why you're having this problem.
Right.
And so we ended up doing a breast MRI, and almost the whole breast lit up. Um,
Wow.
I
So
was
how
diagnosed.
what wait so with that, like when they said nothing and then all of a sudden it's like what was that first reaction? What was that thought?
Man, I think like the second time going around, it was like, we're going to do the mammogram again, but I didn't like, I didn't know what I didn't know. I didn't know what to ask for. So the second time I did a different kind of mammogram, I'm like, I didn't know that there was a different kind of mammogram.
Right.
And I think as we started doing more screenings, my mom started like, I think we all kind of started getting a little nervous. It's like,
Yeah.
they're looking for something now. Like
Mm-hmm.
at first it's like, we're trying to rule it out. And then the second round, it was like, oh no, we're trying to find something.
Right.
And the day that we went in and saw the breast MRI and they showed like the breast almost entirely lit up, that was the first day that the breast surgeon looked concerned. And that was the first time that I was scared. Because then it
Wow.
was like, if she's worried now, like, well, you need to be worried. She's been pretty positive this whole time.
Yeah, you go from talking about creating a family, right? Procreating to the screen lighting up and like, whoa.
And I mean, the whole time, everyone just kept saying, like, you're too young, you're too young, you're too young.
Yeah.
And so, it was crazy. The week that I was supposed to go in for my biopsy, first of all, my biopsy was a nightmare. The
Yours was a
nurses,
nightmare? How's it? Whoa, wait. How is it a nightmare? I just want to know because my biopsy, I was counting backwards from 100. And then I woke up and I was like, all right, cool. Like,
what kind of cancer did you have?
so I got diagnosed twice, right? So I had large B-cell lymphoma the first time,
Oh,
stage 1. And then 5 years later, after that's supposed to be the remission period and you're cancer free, then I was diagnosed with stage 4 Hodgkin's lymphoma.
wow.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and that I definitely want you to check out my story, but we'll talk offline. But it's definitely one of those where it was one of those misdiagnoses. It's like, oh, there's nothing there. And then, so the first biopsy was it was right there in my chest because the mass was right there. The second one, though, now I'll take that back what I just said. The second one, they had to go through to catch in my liver. So that one was the most painful because the liver is all in here, right?
You were
So,
awake?
huh?
You were
Oh,
awake?
nah. But afterwards, it was painful. But that healing, because they had to go in where it's just a straight, shot. So, yeah, that was my biopsy experience. So for you, was it just painful, or you were still awake, or
So I was awake, and
what?
it
Wow.
was like traumatic to be awake. And so
That's
the
like
lady
some movie
that was
type of stuff. Like, you're operating on me, and it hurts, but I can't do anything. But
so I was numb, but what was happening is that some of my milk ducts, for whatever reason, they were so tough. Um,
oh,
so like the lady that's trying to do the biopsy is pregnant, and like she legit has someone on the other side. She's like, I can't get inside the milk duct.
ooh,
So one person is on one side of me and they're like pushing my breast into the needle.
oh
And then the
wow,
lady is doing the needle on the other side. So like I can't feel it then.
yeah.
But there was a lot of commentary, and the commentary was making me nervous. They're like, oh my gosh, these look so swollen, and just like, oh, this doesn't make me feel any, like, I don't think you're supposed to have that much conversation while they're doing a
I don't think
biopsy.
so either. They did a little bit much for that because that sounds like real dramatic, overly dramatic. And you're like, I'm the patient. I have to deal with this. I'm thinking about this. Now I have to think about it. Like yeah.
So then when they finally get a good spot for the biopsy, they take the needle out and I just start bleeding. And the
Mm.
lady's pregnant. She's holding over me and she's trying to put a compression on the spot. And then she gets tired and I was just like,
What?
what is happening?
That's
And then,
unreal, yo. That is.
and then like afterwards, the pain afterwards was crazy. Like I remember like rocking back and forth. My chest hurt so hard, hurt so bad.
And this is all the biopsy. This is just the
This was
biopsy.
just the biopsy. I was
Wow.
really bruised from the biopsy. But that week we're waiting for the results because it was right before the holidays. We're waiting for the results, and I wake up one morning and I just started singing "It Is Well,"
Mm.
and I was like, it's cancer, isn't it? Like,
Mm.
but I felt like if that was the message God was giving me, then that meant whatever happened, it's cool. It is well.
And I'm glad that you took that perspective. I mean, I think sometimes when we get that news, it's the why me, right? It's why me. But I'm glad that you took that, because God is can bring you out of anything. You know, like as long as your mental is good, then you focus on God, all the rest is just a blur, right? It's just a journey and through the process and the storm, right?
Really is. And interestingly enough, I don't ever remember asking why me. When we went in for the news, I didn't tell my mom that I had the feeling that it was cancer. I just kind of kept it to myself. But I kept telling her that, we have to prepare like for anything. We need to prepare for whatever the news is, okay? Then my mom kept saying, "Oh, you're being so negative." So I like talked to my out of my piece, and I said, "I'm being negative. It's not cancer." And when
Mm,
we walked into that office, we were making jokes. We were
yeah,
laughing like
yeah.
it's not cancer. You're too young. But when the doctor kind of peeked her head into the room and they reached that nervous face again, I'm
Hmm.
like,
Here we go.
then she came in and she put her hand on my knee, and then she goes, "So we did find cancerous cells." And then after that, it was like Charlie Brown, want, 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 want.
Wah,
Like
wah,
I don't
wah.
remember. I don't remember. Like I can like thinking back, I can remember watching her like try to draw stuff to show me like this is
Yeah,
what they're. Nothing. I literally looked around the room and I asked, "Who is she talking to?"
yeah.
I was in such shock. And I remember looking at my mom's face because I'm like, I thought it wasn't cancer. And no, I think my mom's face was the problem. Like my husband was there.
Yeah. How long you been
But
married?
I actually got divorced. I got divorced last year.
Okay.
I think cancer is one of those things that'll either bring you together or like it'll magnify the cracks or it'll be the glue. Um,
Ooh,
and
yeah, it's a cancer is an eye opener. It's
it
an
broke
eye
some
opener.
stuff down. But I've been like, look at here, I've been so blessed, like
Yeah,
tenfold since I left that situation. But yeah, it didn't work. And he really checked out after I was diagnosed.
yeah.
Um,
That I don't. It's Why do you think he checked out?
um, I don't, I mean, one thing that I realized as like in our last year of marriage is how much I didn't know about him.
Mm,
How he never really wanted to talk about what he thought or how he felt. And I think it was one of those situations. Um, it was things like I come home one day and I said they want to take one breast, and he was like, "Okay." And he didn't ask how I felt. Like, do you have questions? None of that.
How is it important? And I'm so glad you said that. How important is it for our significant others or people to kind of just check in with us?
It's so important. It's so important. I think there's mixed signals of what co-survivorship should look like.
Mm,
I think I totally get this idea that, well, for some of us, I explained it this way. When I went through treatment, it was like my life, everyone else's life got put on pause. And
yeah,
then after I finished active treatment, they could press play and just pick back up. Like no one has to take her to appointments and that's it. But I couldn't press play anymore. I was on a whole different tape now. Like it's different. I'm different. I can't, there is no going back to who I was. I can't do that. And so I tried therapy. Like as soon as I was diagnosed, I said, let's
yeah.
go to therapy. But even in therapy, he was just not willing to discuss his feelings or his thoughts or anything. And it was very isolating.
Yeah, yeah.
Because I mean, there were times where he wasn't even physically present, but when you are physically present and emotionally absent, it's still lonely. It's still a
It's
lot to
very
go
lonely.
through.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I'm glad that you sound great though. You
Oh,
know,
I'm doing awesome.
yeah, no, I can tell. And I I relate to you because even when so check this out, when I got diagnosed the second time, that was 2 months into the marriage.
Oh,
So got legally married 2 months into it. And so I, not saying I checked out, but I was in survival mode again. And that's hard for someone, one, newly married, right? But to turn on that for sickness or and health, death do us part, to turn it on because now you're so excited about being a wife and things of that nature. And then you're like, dang, I'm a caregiver.
yeah.
That's heavy, right? That's I mean, and so, but as I was trying to survive, it's something that, you just gotta be in the moment with me, right? And so I say that all that to say is that, like, for those people that are with significant others and don't know what to do, just check in, check in and express how you feel and how you're feeling, because it only helps us understand
That's
where
it.
you're at, rather than, oh no, I'm okay, right? You're not okay. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, no one here is okay.
nobody, I mean, we're not okay because we're going through it, but I know that you're not okay. But
Exactly.
it's like, it's okay to be vulnerable, because it's the connection piece. At least for us as that's going through it can, empathize, right? And so that's that. So I saw that 25 pounds of radiation therapy,
25 rounds. Yeah.
25
Um,
rounds. Wow.
I did
So,
proton
and that was
therapy.
the only type, the proton, that was the only type of treatment that could help your diagnosis?
So, man, fun times. So, after my pathology came back, I had a good couple of weeks where I was getting calls almost every other day with doctors saying, you need chemo. No, you don't. You need chemo. No, you don't. So, what happened is, once I did my bilateral mastectomy,
Okay.
because so much of the breast was affected, I used to be
What
really
what
top heavy.
for those that don't know, what is that?
A bilateral mastectomy is having both all the breast tissue removed. So both of my
Oh,
breasts were removed, and nipples. So I just kept the skin and I did breast implants.
okay.
Um, and the process, I mean, man, the process, reconstruction, I did, they're called tissue expanders. They're
Yeah.
basically like little balloons. Mine were under the muscle.
Oh, wow.
They lift up the muscle, they build a pocket, and over a few months, they slowly fill up the balloons. But every time, because it's under muscle, it would trigger muscle spasms in my
Oh,
chest, and it was a painful process. Um, but yeah, so I did the bilateral mastectomy, had both breasts removed because I was top heavy and I knew that they weren't going to be able to match the size of the other breast, and so
yeah.
much one breast was affected that there was no saving it. Like, it had to go.
Right. Right.
um, they look at the pathology and they see multiple tumors across 9 centimeters, some
Oh,
invasive, some non-invasive. Um, but the largest tumor was only 1 centimeter. So they were having this back and forth, like, do we do stage one because the largest tumor is 1 centimeter, or do we
right.
do stage three because it's 9 centimeters, or
Right.
two? So yeah, that was fun. So I remember the first oncologist. I'm such a big advocate for self-advocacy. The first oncologist was withholding information. She just said, you don't need chemo. And then I said, well, tell me why these other doctors said that I did.
Yeah.
And she goes, well, you can do chemo if you want. That was my last appointment with her.
You could do chemo if you want. That's crazy.
So I went and got a second opinion, and I asked that
I'm
person to
glad you did get a
explain to
second
me.
opinion. It's always
Yeah,
good to get a second opinion.
yes. And I said, explain to me why these people are saying that I need chemo. And she explained to me both. And then
Yeah.
she explained to me her recommendation. So I opted out of chemo. And I did radiation. I did the bilateral mastectomy. And because I was hormone receptive, I'm on hormone therapy for 5 to 10 years. So I'm in, like,
So
maybe.
you're currently on treatment, the therapy right now.
Yes,
Okay.
yes. I have a couple more years to go
Okay. Okay.
for,
So
for the 5 year mark.
okay. Okay. So what are the side effects of proton radiation therapy?
What it's like going through that process.
What are some of the side effects? Right. There's
So proton therapy is better for the organs, but it's a little harsher on, like, on the skin. So one of the things that I talked to them about was that the materials weren't really written for women with melanin. They talked about how you're going to turn red and this is, you're going to swell and da, da, da.
Yeah.
And I turned charcoal black. I
Like
lost.
black is my sweater. Wow.
And I think my outline is still there. And that I
I see
did
a
that
little.
about,
Yeah.
I did that about 3 years ago, 4 years
Wow.
ago.
Wow.
Um, charcoal black, I lost the top layer of my skin. And I told them today, so I talk about skin breaks. And I'm like, I don't know what a skin break is, but like it started with a little opening, like a little cut up
Yeah.
under my breast. And the next thing you know, like the whole thing was like lifting up. And I
Wow.
remember I was standing in the bathroom one day and I was trying to dress because it starts to burn. It
Yeah.
doesn't burn during the treatment,
Yeah.
but essentially it's burning the skin. And
Wow.
so I'm trying to like dress the burns and the skin is just falling off. And I just started crying. I was like, I feel like a zombie. Like it was surreal.
That's
Um,
crazy.
so there's the discoloration, there's this tiredness that's like nothing I've ever experienced. I mean, I'm up at 9 o'clock, I need a nap by 11. Like it's
11 p.m. or a.m.?
AM. I'm up
Wow.
at 9 a.m., 11 a.m. I'm like, I need a nap.
So did
It's,
you work during treatment or did you kind of just take time off? Like,
so I tried to go back to work after my bilateral mastectomy. The thing is, I also had some lymph nodes removed. And um, after the surgery, I lost the mobility in my arms, a lot of the mobility. So I couldn't dress myself. I couldn't wash myself. I couldn't use the
wow.
bathroom by myself. I couldn't do any of those things by myself. And so I
Who
stayed
helped
with,
you?
so initially, like I stayed with my mom for those first few
Okay.
weeks. And then she felt like maybe my husband felt out of place. So she's like, I'm going to let him do it. And then this really weird thing started happening. I get back home where I was like having to depend on him.
Uh-huh.
And he was trying to and this may not have been intentionally, but it was what was happening. I think I'm a very independent woman. I've kind of always been that way. And this was a situation where I was dependent on him. And I think to an extent he liked that.
Oh,
So there was some weird slowing down of my progression. Like, look, I don't need you helping me. Like, I want to try to put it on myself. And he was like, oh, no, 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 I'll do it. So with him doing it and like fighting me on trying to
yeah.
to push through therapy and stuff, it got a little weird. And so that was a weird dynamic that we had to, but mostly it was my mom that
Okay.
was my primary caregiver through a lot of that.
Now, obviously you had your mom. What about your other friends? Like, what was your support system outside of your mom and your husband?
Um, my dad was there. I was like, my dad, he felt like his part was to make sure I made it to radiation every day. Did we get there in 5 minutes when it should have taken 20? Yes, he got me there though.
Hey,
um
you're a daddy's girl, aren't you?
I do. I love my dad. I love my dad. Um, I don't call him my stepdad. I just call him both my dad. But my stepdad, that was his role. He made sure I got to radiation every day.
Yeah.
My biological dad, he set aside money because I didn't. I had went to work. They were stressing me out. My body was adjusting to these medicines. I was
Yeah.
sick. I was tired, and I was like, "We're not gonna do this." I
Right.
just stay out until like I'm good, and when I'm good, I'll come back.
Yeah.
And then I was getting like these off-putting comments, like people, maybe you should just work at home. People were asking questions. They say you don't look like you feel good, and I'm like, yo, I'm tired. I don't know
I'm
what you want me
tired.
to
I'm
do.
going through treatment. I have cancer. What do you expect?
What you want me to do?
Right.
So yeah, I just took off. I did disability until I finished treatment. And I did have my mom organized a couple of days before my bilateral mastectomy. She put together a bye bye boobies party.
Bye bye boobies.
Yes, she had some of my closest friends and family, and either like some of my favorite teachers. They sent in
Oh,
videos, and
wow.
she put it together in 2 weeks. My mom is amazing.
She's a
Um,
beast. Shout out
Yeah,
to mom. Shout out to Mom Duke
yeah.
for
Look, I'm really like, my mom is like my best friend. And so yeah, she put that together within a couple weeks, and so I got sent off with prayer and with good energy, and not,
Amen.
you know what I mean, with not like, we're gonna get through this. My aunt and my uncle, her brother and her sister-in-law, they came down and they stayed with us for a couple of weeks so that they could support my mom. And I think
Wow.
that was important too, because I can't
Caregivers need a break too.
they do. They need help too. They need, somebody needs to check in with them to make sure they're doing okay. And so that was a huge, like, forever grateful for them, for that. And then I did have a best friend at the time. And unfortunately, cancer was one of those things that broke that friendship up. Um,
No, it's unfortunate that it does that, but I mean, it's not on purpose, you know?
it's not on purpose, but you know what it is that I went into that surgery. That bilateral mastectomy was my first major surgery,
Yeah,
and I was like, you want to talk about weird movie type stuff?
yeah.
They're rolling you into the operating room, and you have to lay yourself on the operating table. And so you're looking up at
Wait. They don't pick you up. You have to do it yourself.
I had to scoot myself onto the operating
What hospital
table.
is this? So I do not go there. I'm not. You got to pick me up. Like I'm scooting over. Like what are we
They
doing?
have to scoot you up. You have to scoot, and then you're laying down, and it's like in the movies when you look up and it's all the bright lights. That
Yeah.
was like the most eerie thing ever,
Wow.
because
That's
it
a
felt like I was offering myself up. It was just a
yeah.
really weird, and they only did that for my bilateral mastectomy. They didn't do that for like the other surgeries that I had. So I don't know what that was about.
Yeah.
But I remember going in there and being terrified, and I just kept thinking to myself, if I die today, is that it? How am I going to explain to God why I didn't do all the stuff I was supposed to do? Like, I was legit trying to think of like excuses. And if the only thing that I could come up with is I was afraid.
But you're gonna look at you like you were afraid. I had your
The
back.
best you got.
That's the best you got. I may let you into heaven. No, but
So like, really, so when I woke up, to me, that felt like game on. Like,
I was
I
about to ask you what's because you are see you just the alley oop. I'm like, so now that was that motivation, let's talk about the great things you've been doing. The great thing that paying the purpose.
Yes. So I basically, like I said, after my mastectomy, I didn't have a lot of mobility in my arms, but as soon as I could start writing again, every idea that God put in me, I was making notes, I'm making plans, because
Yeah,
my thing is, I'm a perfectionist. You know, some people go through trauma and they go crazy. Other people go through trauma and they come out perfectionists. And so I've been a perfectionist since I was a child. And the bad side of that is that it'll make you afraid to try, because you'll be afraid to fail if
to
you can't get
fail.
it right, or you can't
But
do
I
it
don't know if
perfect.
that's you because I see in the background you got hustle.
I'm working on my perfectionism.
Oh, excuse me.
I'm working on it. Um, but now the thing is, like, I just trust God so much with the visions that He gives me.
Amen.
I'm not so afraid to fail, and even if I am afraid, I do it afraid. And so I had all these ideas. The first thing I did was I created an Etsy shop.
Okay.
And I
Is that
started,
hard to do? I see a lot of people have those.
no, it was not hard to do.
Okay. Okay.
And you know what? Like, no, it wasn't hard to do. I create the Etsy shop, and then I started selling stuff, and I'm like,
Hmm.
okay, we can do this.
Yeah.
And then I was
What did you
like,
sell? Like t-shirts? Did you sell like gift cards? Like
I
what are you
did
selling?
t-shirts. I did t-shirts. I did like phone cases, like whatever made me feel good or made me feel happy. I kind of created it, and I created it
Nice.
for other women that were going through cancer. Because I'm like, it's when you're young in the cancer community and you're Black in the cancer community, like, you're two times an outlier.
Yeah,
Like,
pretty
the
much.
stuff isn't
Pretty much.
created for us.
No,
So
it's not.
I wanted to create stuff that I wanted to wear.
Yeah.
Um, that's what I started doing. Then I started sending care packages. I sent some as far as like to Africa and to Spain,
Wow.
and then I put that on hold. And in 2019, I met my business partner now, her name is Marissa, and
Shout out to Marissa. Yep.
yeah, we met at the Young Survival Coalition conference. It's a conference for young women with young people now with breast cancer, but back then it was just for young women with breast cancer. And for one, it was again this odd experience. Like, you're looking at all of these experiences where, for one, having a bilateral mastectomy, you can't Google Black woman with bilateral mastectomies. Like,
Never can.
you know what I mean? You can't. And so it was like, I remember going through that experience and thinking to myself, who has the bad doctor? Do I have the bad doctor? Are they asking me to do something that they're not telling other Black women to do? Or
Right.
other Black women not in the opportunity? Like, I'm trying to figure out what's going on. And you get to this summit and you kind of feel the same way. Like, we took a picture with the Black women that were there, and there were enough of us to, like, you could see, it was pretty close up, but it's like a head to toe photo and all of us can fit in that frame.
Oh, wow.
And so you kind of get that experience like, well, geez, where are we at?
Yeah.
And then while we were there, we kind of learned about the health disparities. And I remember standing up in that room being like, yo, if we need to create something, I will do it, but it's going to take everyone to support it. And I had no idea what was getting ready to come afterwards. Like, I
Right.
meant what I was saying, but I had no idea what God was about to do. So I met Marissa in March. By May, we launched For the Breast Device, which is the first
Love it. I
inclusive
love it. I love
community.
it. I'm giving you your flowers. Yeah. For the rest
Thank
of
you.
us is dope, man. It's dope.
Thank
Y'all are doing
you.
some amazing things. We gonna have to collab on some things for sure.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
So how long has it been running? How long has it been
Since
for the breast of us?
2019, we've grown so much. We got like 6,000 Instagram followers. There's almost 1,000 women in our private Facebook group.
Wow.
Um, that we are working on some incredible partnerships to increase the access to resources for women of color.
Amen.
And it's taken off so fast. It's one that I keep telling people, there's nothing that I've done apart from God. It's something that I will do apart from God. And I keep telling, some of these ideas that we do, these moves we make, they are God ideas. Like, they're not of me, and I'm very
That's what's
aware
up.
of that.
That's
So I'm just excited to see what comes next for us.
wow. That's amazing, man. And I'm just glad that you didn't allow cancer to be your cancer. You know what I mean? Like, you found the can in cancer, and that's amazing. You had the support. You found your partner, and your nonprofit. And what turned into, like, bad news at the end of it, you're blessed. Look at the energy that you have right now. You are something magical. Yep, I'm calling it right behind you.
Well,
And
thank you.
so,
Well, thank you.
no, you're welcome. You're welcome. Um, with the nonprofit, right? What are some of the things that you offer, with your nonprofit? You said resources. So yeah, let's talk about For the Breast of Us. Yeah, what do y'all offer?
So we're actually an LLC. We had the idea of, like, I don't know if you ever heard of like ihadcancer.com.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
so I wanted to create like an ihadcancer.com for women of color. And so we started out like primarily creating a space where we could just share, like a blog site, sharing stories and
yeah,
resources. And then we kind of realized, like, oh, they're really listening to what we have to say.
yeah.
And if they're listening to what we have to say, we need to be saying something meaningful. So
Wow, okay.
then we started to create webinars, shared decision making. How do you navigating clinical trials? Asking questions on
Wow.
reconstruction. We do a monthly chat, Baddies Talk Back. We touch on the real stuff, the stuff that everyone else in mainstream may not feel comfortable talking about. We're talking about dating, sex, grief. We touch on it all
I can imagine that this is great, because after going through reconstruction, you may not have no tatas, things of that nature. How do you navigate the love life? How do you feel
exactly.
sexy? All that. Like, I'm sure, and that reinforcement is amazing. That
It is.
reinforcement.
We just had our first sex and wellness webinar a couple weeks ago. I was so proud of it. The kind of emails and comments that we received from women were just incredible. Women were so appreciative of the
Yeah.
conversation, of the space, that felt like you're talking to your girlfriends, and you've got experts and you can ask questions. And I told someone, I said, your doctors don't really talk to you about how your medications will affect your
Yeah.
quality of life. And I think those first conversations I had were in the hot tub at the YSC summit. And I'm like, oh, you haven't, like, that's a problem? Okay, then teach me. But other than that, like, it's a really hush hush thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Tiptoeing.
So,
Everybody wants to tiptoe around it.
so to be in a space where you're empowered with information and know that, like, how to navigate dating, or how other women are navigate dating, or how to
Yeah.
navigate sex and all those things, it is such an empowering space. And so that's what we do. We've redesigned our mission after our first year, and we said what we want to do is we want to help women make the rest of their lives the best of their lives. That's it. And what can we do
Amazing.
to fill that gap? Yeah.
So no, that's amazing, and I'm glad that I'm following y'all, so I'm watching what y'all doing, and we're definitely going to make sure some things happen between both of our nonprofits, because that's what we're here for. So we come to that place where I need 3 positive deposits from you, whether it's for breast cancer survivors, breast cancer patients, or just women that are dealing with cancer. Just need your top 3 that come to mind from God, right?
The first one is it as well.
Mm.
The second one is possibilities over probabilities.
Ooh.
Um, and then the last one, I had it and I lost it. No playing small. Game
Mm.
on. Like we when it's done, it's done. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Um, don't let the light go out and you haven't left nothing behind.
Wow, that's powerful. Wow, you heard it. You heard it. It is well. What was the second one?
Oh, what
Po-
was this like?
possi-
Possibilities over probabilities.
Possibilities or probability, and what was the third one?
No more playing small.
No more playing small. You heard it loud and clear. Those are powerful statements. I like the simplicity of them. They hit heavy. They hit heavy. So if folks want to follow you, get in touch with you, talk to you about anything when it comes to breast cancer survival, being sexy while after survivorship, like where can we find you?
Well, first, I will plug For the Breast of Us. We were at For the Breast of Us on Facebook and Instagram. On Twitter, we are The Breast of Us. Our website is breastofus.com. And then me personally, I have 2 profiles. One is a little bit more of my personal life. It's at
Okay.
Brave Beauty 26. And then the one that I've started just for my breast cancer baddies, it is at Jazzy the Baddie, Baddie.
At Jazzy the Baddies. That's what's up. That's what's up. Well, you this is where you can find Jasmine. For the Breast of Us, please follow. They got a lot of amazing things that's going on, and it's a safe space. It's a very
It
safe
is.
space.
It's a beautiful space. There's no place like it, literally.
And so as you guys want to share this with everyone, this episode is on all your streaming platforms: Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio Podcasts, and Spotify, plus the YouTube channel. Please go and subscribe to our Positive Deposit YouTube channel. And you can get everything through our website, www.positivedeposits.org, where we continue to transform minds and change lives. And plus, on top of that, we both have nonprofits. Please donate. We cannot do this without your support. So I will say, for the Breast of Us, donate, and Positive Deposits, donate. So with that being said, thank you so much for Jasmine for being on the show, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you for having me.